Believe
So
that.
now,
But can you touch on why the Russians are usually better than
I
the
think it's
Iranians?
drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to Thick Boy Fight Club. I'm your Balkan boy.
Tyson the Beast.
And our guest today, multiple national champion wrestler, top 8 in the world, executive of Beat the Streets, our wrestling coach, Neal Ewers.
My
Happy
guy.
to be here. Thank you very much.
As usual, before we get into it, shout out to our sponsors, Mutt Studio, Spores Bars, Kangen Water, of course.
Kimura.
Kimura Wear for
Just for Kicks.
Kicks, Bearded
Major
Bites,
Pack.
Major Pack.
Always shout out Kansas City.
That's right. And the Thick Boy restaurant shout-outs. For me, I'm going to go home to Brampton, Radica's. They got the best doubles, I think, anywhere, really. So if you want, after I won the cuff title, I was obsessed with doubles and from Trinidad, and I was managed to find just as good doubles right in Brampton. So I think they just opened a next location, a bigger location. It's still right around the block on Queen and Rutherford. Radica's.
For me, it's Trinity Gardens. So ironically, another Trinity spot right there on
Trini, man.
Lakeshore, Etobicoke, the best food in the city. Actually found out recently, I've been going there for like years, found out I actually know the family through somebody else I'm close with. Somebody we trained with, Justin from Combat. He's
Nice.
Trinity. Totally just found that out. Good little spot. They got one place on Lakeshore, another place on Queensway, both in Etobicoke. Local family thing. Awesome Trinity food.
Cool. And I'm going to go back to Brampton and shout out Superlicious. I know they've got a Toronto location. I'm not sure where, but
Rexdale.
it's in Rexdale.
Yeah.
But big up to Superlicious. I'm Jamaican, and I love my soups, and they deliver every time.
Yeah, they got good porridges there too, and they got all kinds of soup, chicken foot, and
The cow foot's the best.
the cow foot's the
Yeah.
best. Okay. Okay. Well, today we're talking wrestling. We're talking wrestling about an MMA, and let's get to know Neal a little bit. Neal, why don't you just give us your background, how you got started in wrestling, and your journey a bit through martial arts yourself.
Yeah. Got started, had no idea what wrestling was until high school. Grade 9, my wrestling coach, who was brilliant, leaked the secret to me that my high school basketball coach was going to bench me and make me play 6-man. And my ego couldn't handle it. So that's how he wanted me over to try wrestling instead of that. And then, the rest is history. I got good at it pretty quickly. And I went through... I started at Chaminade High School, just by Jane and Weston area, and got good enough to start wrestling club with a little club called Metro Toronto Wrestling back in the day. Shout outs to all my coaches and everybody that was a part of that process, and got pretty good within a year. I was top 4 at the juvenile championships, my first national championship, and then just started winning. I won OFSA the following year. Went off on a scholarship, won a nationals as well, went off on a scholarship to Simon Fraser. So a lot of people out in this side of the world this side of the country don't really know much about me, but I wrestle out in West in Vancouver. 4-time All-American. My heart of hearts tells me I could have been a 4-time champ, but I was plagued with injuries.
As you should believe. As any good wrestler would believe.
No, but honest truth, I redshirted the first year, but then my actual freshman year, I was 3rd at the NAIAs because I didn't know I was actually decent at folk style. Straight up,
That's
But
style of
for folks who
wrestling.
don't know,
Yes.
American wrestling.
Is it only Fraser that gets to go to the States?
Is it only what, sir?
Like, was it only which schools
Simon
get
Fraser,
to,
yeah. That was only one Canadian school that
yeah,
wrestled.
right. So
I
a
mean,
lot
That's
of
an
people don't know
amazing
that.
thing.
Yeah,
That's,
it was
that's
cool.
a huge tool.
Yeah,
They're
now
like
they're
the Raptors, you know?
yeah,
like-
they were. We were, and now they're Div 2. So
Oh, they're Division 2 down
Div
there.
2 now, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, so they can't really go Div 1 because I don't think they have the funds to do that. Like
Yeah.
Div 1 is just a whole other animal, and all your sports have to be Div 1. So we'd have to recruit all of Canada in football
Yeah,
to
that's
be able
right.
to compete, and they'll probably still get
Yeah.
slapped. Right?
Yeah. D2 is tough too, though.
D2 's tough,
across
yeah.
the board.
Yeah. So I went there, and then my sophomore year, I was number 1 seed, and I popped my knee before the nationals, so I ended up pulling out at after the semis. So I ended up 6th.
What kind of knee injury was it?
I think that one was a medial ligament. I think it was like maybe a 3rd degree. That's the only thing I think that would have stopped me. I don't remember exactly, but I'd probably wrestled through 1 and 2, or maybe try to, and then that's probably what happened. Maybe it was a
That's
second
what happens to
degree.
all wrestlers in knee
And
problems.
then, but then my junior year I came back and smashed and won. And then my senior year I was again #1 seed and I made it to the finals. But I was in a car accident a month before the NAIs. Yeah, right. So
That's
and so
heartbreaking.
by the time I got to the finals, I was so out of shape. Or the guy scored on a fireman's and held me, so he got 5 right off the bat. And I spent the rest of the match trying to catch him. Take him down, and then
Let him up.
So by the time it was done, I think I took him down 4 times before I ran out of gas. And I still
That's
lost.
the worst when
Yeah.
you have to do that too.
So I honestly feel like could have been a 4-time. I mean, luck and all, but it is what it is. That's why we compete.
Yeah.
I was good enough to be. I think I was good enough to be one. But then after that, that year I graduated 2002. I came out and wrestled the senior nationals and I won the senior nationals there. And then I had a really badass year. I went to, so I was probably the youngest guy on the national team by about 5 years.
Oh,
And
wow.
Yeah, and I still went out and placed top 8. And the funny thing is, they changed the rules the night before my quarterfinals. So the rule before was if you made it to the quarterfinals tournament, whoever scored the most points, if you lose in the quarterfinals, you would be, if you scored the most points in the tournament, you'd be 5th. And then the second most points that scored in the quarterfinals of the people that lost, 6, 7, 8.
Oh.
So I scored 21 points. The next closest guy to me in that, no, I think it was 29. The next closest guy to me in the tournament was 21. So if I'd lost the match, I should have been 5th.
But
they
did
changed
they have
the
wrestle
rules.
offs where you had to wrestle back?
They didn't. No. So the system, the way it's set up now is different, right? Where you can have 2 3rd places and 2 5th places.
Oh,
Back then, it was only
yeah.
1 true bronze and 1 true.
Okay.
So you'd wrestle right through till you got to the quarters, and then whoever lost in the quarters would be eliminated. But then they would put you 5th, 6th, 7th,
Yeah.
and then the top 4 would go on and do the semis and then the finals. Right. So
They're always tweaking the rules with wrestling.
Totally.
That's why even when I was
Too
wrestling,
much,
I
man.
noticed like
Yeah.
by the time I was done near the end of wrestling, it was like different.
Hey, all you top mutts, looking to start your own podcast but don't know where to begin? Well, here at Mutt Studio, we provide an array of services to help you with all of your podcasting needs. Go to the link below and give us a shout. Peace.
Of like scoring system and everything.
It's and I feel like at that time when you were wrestling, they had a really shitty system, and I think it pretty much
Freestyle is
killed the
always
sport.
changing the rules. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's just now since I'd say after 2012 they realized I think that they messed up, and then things when we almost lost wrestling at the Olympics.
Ridiculous.
That's when
Yeah.
they realized they had to change it back.
So why do you think that? Because obviously I wrestle in the States and we've had this. We joke about the folk style.
Yeah.
Folk style's been the same for a long time. There's been few changes over
But where's folk style wrestled outside?
only
of
in the
America?
States. It's only in the
Yeah.
States. But
Let me
in
tell you.
freestyles always seems to be changing the rules. Why do you think that is?
Always tweaking, yeah.
Well, freestyle is in the Olympics, right? And the Olympics about the dollar, really, is what it comes down to. And then folk style, it's a cult, pretty much. It's a following.
Full-blown.
Like it's
Full-blown cult.
So I'll give you a quick story. I'm at the 2016 Div 1s Nationals in New York at Madison Square Garden.
16. So I'm trying to think who that was. What
Dope.
class
That was when Schneider won. What's his name? Strider was heavyweight. Then Jaden Cox. Then and that's when Ohio. What's his name from Ohio? Miles Martin.
Miles Martin beat
All those guys.
Nickel.
Yeah, Nickel. Yeah,
Beat
so
my guy.
Yeah. So it was an amazing year. Anyway, so the coolest thing I'd ever seen. We're sitting down, and the Madison Square Garden is packed.
Yeah.
Not a free seat, right? And then they said, if you've been a part of this sport, this beautiful sport for more than 10 years, stand up. Right? Pretty much everybody stands up.
Yeah.
Hey, if you've been a part of this beautiful sport for more than 20 years, stay standing. And then people they got all the way down to like 70 years, and these old dudes are just standing there. Like, yeah.
Damn. You'll always be a fan.
Think about that.
Yeah, you'll always be.
Yeah.
Especially if you wrestle folks out. It's like you said, it's a cult. You'll always be a fan.
But
It's a
that's
fact.
the history, man. Yeah. And a lot of people talk about, they're not fans of folk style because, it's the style is slow. And what. If you understand the sport, it's the best.
It translates
I
the best to
always find
MMA.
that confusing when people say they don't like. I feel like it's just because they didn't wrestle it.
They don't
I love
understand
watching
it.
freestyle too,
Yeah.
but I don't see how they enjoy it more. Like the shock, some of the rules, the way things like it just seems more ways wrestlers can lose in odd situations. It's just very weird. You know what I
It's
mean?
tough. It's a tough
And I
sell.
still love it.
It's less limited.
Folk style is a tough sell because you really have to be tough to be good at it. It's a tough sell. So freestyle, you can score some easy points. You can get away.
Yeah,
you can
like
stall.
the
you
push
can,
out.
Yeah, you can throw someone and not. But when you're in folk style,
You have to
it
wrestle the
keeps
whole
you
time.
honest. It keeps and the kind of people that folk style builds are honest people. Like that's why they're kind of my pure belief and true belief is that if you've been a part of folk style for a long time and you've mastered the sport, your character is it's almost given that you have good character.
That's a good point because you have to work the whole time.
Yeah, it's given because you
literally have
can't-
to work the whole time.
You can't sneak an easy point, and if you lose, it's gonna suck, no matter how.
And you lose, you actually lose. Not
You
like
lose. Nobody
I
can
pushed
say-
you out the end, and so I got
Yeah.
criteria. I'm like, I hate criteria. I hate that. I
very
hate seeing guys lose that
very
way.
seldom
I hate
is
seeing
someone
guys
gonna,
lose that way.
very seldom is someone gonna say that I lost a folk style match because someone ripped me off.
It's hard.
It's hard.
It's extremely. It can happen. We talked about the tournament this year with
Everything you're
RBY.
saying is why it's the most effective wrestling for MMA.
100%.
Yeah. I love freestyle, but they don't seem to translate as well.
No.
People bring up Henry Cejudo and DC. I'm like, but they grew up folk
Think
style
about
wrestling.
think about some
Yeah.
really high level wrestlers that we've trained with, right? Without even mentioning names, and like they would throw you and take you down, and then lose control right away, and you get a good position on
Or
them.
you're able, like
You know what I
I've
mean?
noticed the difference here. Like guys are better wrestlers than me, folk freestyle wise.
Yeah.
And then just even like, but like what I realized, a lot of times the guys who are just purely freestyle, they're much easier to break because they're not used to that. I've noticed that a lot, and you've gone on me about that. Like, hey, make it hard on yourself.
Yeah.
But I don't think that because where I grew up, everybody wrestled like that. That's just
Yeah.
what it was. Like
Yeah.
even in MMA practice, the other wrestler was a guy who is used to being. You get beat up in folk style. There's no getting
Yes.
right back up to your feet. Like,
But there's a downside to that too, though.
and I agree with that. I agree. That's why I've kind of liked transitioning to the style that you've been teaching us, right? But like, yeah, I've noticed that a lot when we train with other guys. You talk about that.
Yeah,
What would you say is the detriment to it?
to folk style, it's the so if you got 10 guys that start on folk style, within like 10 years you're probably down to one. Like,
Well,
straight
nothing
up, it's
beats
just
you
too
up
hard.
like wrestling.
It's too hard.
Nothing beats you up like wrestling.
Yeah, well, not just that, but folk style is like. So I watch these little shows. What's the name of that show? One of the New York State kids wrestling coach started this show, The Grind. It's called The Grind. So big up to The Grind. Like anybody watching this, watch The
I know what
Grind.
you're talking about.
Right? So it shows when little kids get into folk style down there. And the
And this is
roller
in New York,
coaster.
right?
Yeah.
One of the best state tournaments in the
Yeah.
country. It's one tournament.
Yeah.
So if you win in New York, think how many kids go to high school in
Yeah.
New York. If you win in New York, same with California. So the two most populated states have one tournament for wrestling,
Yeah.
which nobody understands.
Yeah.
It's like they hate wrestling because
Yeah.
like it deters you. Like, you could be a state champion in like literally 40 states and never win a state championship in California. Like
Yeah. Or New York.
Because in California,
Yeah. Or Pennsylvania too.
yeah. In Kansas, you'd get 3 different divisions that splits up a smaller population to begin with.
Yeah.
So there's guys who won 4 state champions there that probably would never have won a single one in California or New York. It's crazy.
Yeah, but yeah, it just shows you how it keeps those kids honest, right? And the struggle right now for those tournaments and people who watch this show, they have critiques about how the parents are too hard on their kids, how they're calling kids like Marsha, like one of the kids on there, his dad calls him Marsha because he's whining, and stuff. But it's the culture, and it keeps these kids honest. Like you're a man, and if you watch the one of my favorite things to do is to watch Div 1 head coaches, and it's not just Div 1. A lot of the head coaches in the States, if you watch their character, like who they are, like Tom Ryan, you got Gable, you got
Say my boy's name. Say it.
Gail Sanderson,
Say his name.
his
damn it.
coach Bobby Douglas. Like you watch these guys, they're like Navy colonels or Marine
Yeah.
colonels,
They're
right?
lieutenants. They're like,
They're purists. It's God and then wrestling. You get what I'm saying? Like straight up.
Family.
And family, and then everything they do to uplift their men. And the worst thing that these guys can do is to be disrespectful to the art or to the sport. Like it.
So like quitting, bad sportsmanship.
Yeah, like anything.
That stuff
bad.
is like.
So I'll give you an example from my own experience, because my coach, Mike Jones, again, props to Mike Jones at SFU. He's retired, but when I was in my redshirt year, before I started, we wrestled the Klansman, which is a tournament that our team tournament, and I was wrestling this one guy from the States who was just dirty, like just one of those punks that would. Anyway, and he was just messing around and like pushing me, poking me in the eyes and doing all kinds of stupid shit. And Jones, for the first time I'd ever seen him like getting mad, he's like, "Ref, what's going on?" Da, 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 da. And I'm like, "Oh, he sees it." So I get into it too. I'm like, "Fuck you, yeah, go ref," and I'm getting into it. And so this guy, Jones gives me the look, and the look is basically, can I swear on this? I can swear on this.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, the look is like, fuck him up, right? I'm like, all right, I'm gonna fuck him up. So I go ham, and my hands get heavy, and I start smashing this guy. And at one point, I took him down, and at the end of the match, I stepped on him and walked over him. Dude, like that's I got caught
It was a
up,
real
right?
beef thing that match. Yeah, man, it happens,
It
bro.
happens, bro.
It's
But
it's
then-
inevitable. It's the closest thing to
But
fighting
here's
you
the
can get
joke.
in high school.
Here's the joke. Jones comes over to me at the end of the match and says, "I understand that guy was being a dick, but if you ever fucking do that again, you're gonna be on the next fucking flight to Toronto. Do you understand me?" I go, "But Mike, I don't care. You don't fucking do that." And I'm like, "Okay." You know what I mean?
Yeah, he
So
kept you
that's-
honest.
They keep you honest, and they keep you like it's just such a. I forget the Michigan coach's name right now. The Michigan coach's name. They call him a Silver Fox, I think. Anyway, that dude, I went and I spent a little bit of time with him. Just like you can see it. Like I'd follow that guy into battle any day because he's not gonna lead me wrong anywhere.
All those top coaches, you feel that way
Yeah.
about the Ohio
And
State
I think-
coach, Kale, all the top guys in the D1 right now, you feel that way.
It's like a prereq, right?
They're literally all like the
All
Brands
American.
brothers. Like they're literally
Yeah.
like soldiers. Like
Yeah, it's an all. When they say all American, it's legit, and that's what we are. So people ask me why is Canada not good at wrestling? There's a lot of reasons, but to me, the number one thing, we are not. There's no such thing as all Canadian. You know, where
Like
you have
that
those kind of
discipline,
coaches.
yeah.
Those kind of coaches at the top level that. I can only think of two in my whole career at the university level that I would rate and put in that category.
Well, there's a reason all the places we just named are very like huge military hubs. Look at the states we just named. It's not a coincidence that Iowa, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan are the Big Ten is like the. You can just watch the Big Ten tournament and figure out who's going to win the nationals, right? Like how many of those guys won their tournament, then the very next week won national championships, right? And there was a bunch of rematches, and it's literally that Midwest like that hub. And I know that difference from living in Kansas, right? It's a culture, like a lot more like there's Fort everything in every one of those states, right?
That's what's important, like what you do with Beat the Streets.
Yeah.
And trying to like keep the culture, build the culture here, because there isn't really that much of a wrestling culture here in Canada.
No, well, and that's so good point. And the founders of Beat the Streets, those guys are like those guys from back in like 70s and 80s that wrestled for Canada. I think a lot of them understood that. And so our founder, his name is John Park, and he was a coach at York when they had their only time that they actually had a history, like a successful run, and I think they won a national title. And he was a man. Like he, so there's this article that we put on our website where the number one sport that Fortune 500 companies recruit students from universities from is wrestling.
Oh, I fully believe that.
Yeah, no, it's you can look it up, and it's on that foundation that he wanted to start a legacy organization to get some of these kids. Because, for example, a guy like myself, like I landed when I came from Jamaica, I landed at Vaughan and Oakwood.
Yeah.
At that point,
block
that
guy,
time,
yeah.
right?
That's
that
the
point,
block,
it was
bro.
there was no Jane and Finch at that time, right? That was
That's
Vaughan and
little
Oakwood,
Jamaica,
right?
bro.
And then we moved, west.
Everybody moved west.
And then you go Jane and Finch or Rexdale kind of thing. And then, sure enough, I moved to Keel and Finch, which is, I went to school at Jane and Finch. But I didn't have any models that would teach me that kind of mindset. You know what I mean? And then I got to high school. I went to an all-boys Catholic school because my mom was basically saying that.
Yeah, with my cousin. Yeah.
Yeah, with your cousin. Yeah,
Yeah,
with
Quincy.
us. Those
Shout out
those
Quincy
kids-
Romaine.
Yeah,
Shout out
exactly.
Mike.
Quincy was like big bro, right?
Yeah.
But understand, at that school, it was a lot of us kids, Caribbean kids, whose parents were like, "You're not going to McGuigan. You're not going to these schools."
Yeah,
because
because we were in Etobicoke.
Right.
My aunt was like, nah.
So he went from Etobicoke to flipping Jane and Lawrence, right? And I went from Keelan Finch to Jane and Lawrence. You know what I mean? Like that's because a lot of us had to go to that. So what we got there was that was a start of that mindset of building like almost a military mindset where you're going to be a good student and a good athlete, or either, right? And so the ones who were good students and good athletes, then we went on to get scholarships, and a lot of guys are still coming out of school getting scholarships. And then you go off to a school like Simon Fraser, and again, like we partied, right? But
Yeah,
then,
it's college.
but then when Mike got a hold of me and I was one of Mike's guys, then it's like I started finding myself like I'm not going out for the next 3 months because I'm getting ready for this tournament. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not doing
Yeah.
this. But it's unless you have someone leading the charge like that,
You can't do it.
you can't do
There's
it.
no glory. Like,
Yeah.
you bring up why people want to hire somebody like that, because you have to be willing to work harder than a lot of people and not
Yeah.
get the same glory. Like,
Yeah.
basketball, you know, and especially at least where I was for sure, like football and basketball was king, right? So if you wrestled, you have to work very hard. It literally has to be something that you're enjoying it for the process.
And you
have
meet
to.
hard individuals. Like there's
Yeah,
no other
like-
like people that are like better at coping with life just because they're toughened by wrestling. Like people ask, I went to U of T and they asked me, "What'd you study?" I usually say, "I got a wrestling education." It's like I feel like that's probably some of the best thing I got out of university.
It'll translate into a lot of things.
Yeah, bro, yeah. I remember in school, I would. There were semesters where I only went to like 40% of my classes because I was competing.
Yeah.
And it was still expected of me to flip and pass courses. And I remember one psychology prof was like, it was like, well, if you're missing that much of my class, why don't you just drop out and just go wrestle? And I said, well, I can't do that. I can't wrestle without a scholarship. Like, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And he couldn't wrap his head around the fact that you could be an elite athlete and an elite student, or not even just be a student.
Well, because
Right.
it makes you question a lot of the other students whose only goal is to be a student. They're failing.
We
He's
run
like-
circles around
Yeah,
those people.
yeah, they don't realize that, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of times the professor's like, wait, what? Like, it makes you wonder, like, what are the rest of my students doing? Like, if he's able to do both, because it's hard, and especially in a lot of schools where they, you know, you're not able to play. Even if you play football, same thing. At least where I was from, if you're, you know what I mean, if you're acting up in class and things aren't going well, you don't get to play. So you have to balance both.
Yeah.
So you have to be, but football has glory to it.
Yeah.
There's a glory to playing high school football in Kansas,
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah.
different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wrestling, you have to just love to wrestle to want to do it.
Yeah, you have to be eligible to. I had to be eligible to
Yeah.
to be able to wrestle. So
So you know what's crazy about what we were just talking about is we had been talking about Jorge Masvidal.
Yeah.
So this is kind of where we can glue the MMA. So he said his favorite two things to watch is traditional Muay Thai and college wrestling.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that. I was like, what? He goes, I don't know if he was just hyping because he had Bo Nickel there, but he seemed very sincere what he was saying. He knew what he was talking about with their history at Penn State. He knew Anthony Cassar's history with the Gable Stevens. I was like, wow. Like,
Yeah.
I was very surprised by it. So like now as somebody who's like now training fighters and transition to that kind of thing, like what's your view on how much wrestling has been such a huge part of MMA success, specifically folk style wrestling, or
Yeah.
you know, what's your opinion of like how they've kind of transitioned so many legendary fighters?
I think they even like they haven't gotten the best yet.
I agree.
I think the baddest. So the problem is if you're successful at wrestling, MMA is not all that appealing to you. Like if you're Jordan Burroughs,
Yeah.
MMA is not appealing to you.
yeah,
If
and
you're
he
Cael
said
Sanderson,
that. He said that.
yeah, if you're Cael Sanderson, it's not appealing to you.
Yeah.
But if you are the guy who was
Fifth
third or
or
fourth
sixth,
or
yeah.
fifth or sixth at the NC2As, then yeah, like especially if you're not going on. And again,
Guy who didn't
If-
make it to the
if-
Olympics because he had a
if
kidney
you
issue,
start-
like Daniel Cormier.
But to be fair, two of the greatest fighter wrestlers of all time are Ben Askren in DC and Henry
Yeah.
Cejudo.
Cejudo.
but Ben Askren, he translated to being a good freestyle wrestler, but he wasn't. He never placed at the Worlds or any of that.
Yeah,
stuff.
I know he was on
You know
the
what I'm
one
saying?
Olympic
Yeah.
team.
Yeah,
DC got a bronze, right? Am I?
He might have. He was
didn't
good
he
enough
miss?
to do
Didn't he
better.
miss the Olympics?
He missed
But
something
he
happened.
didn't. He
yeah,
didn't
he
make
had a
weight.
weight issue.
And then Henry Cejudo.
Henry
Henry
Cejudo,
Cejudo-
gold
medalist.
Gold
Henry
medalist.
Cejudo is a different animal. Like there's always going to be the unicorn, right? I
Yeah.
feel he would. You can consider him to be a unicorn, where
Goes to
he
pro
wins.
box next.
But then you look at a guy like Stephen Neal. You guys know who Stephen Neal is? Stephen Neal was U.S. Olympic champion, and then after one Olympics, he went and joined NFL, and he was with the Patriots and won 3 titles, right?
That's different. The financial gain is much.
No, I'm saying the elite guys, the guys who can go from NC2A and win an Olympics, right? Those guys, folk style. I mean, MMA doesn't look.
But how many
all that
Americans have done that in the last 20 years? How many? And I'm asking you for actual help on
Yeah.
this. We have Cael would
KO.
be in there.
Yeah.
Cejudo.
Stephen Neal, that have just went from
And I'm not talking about, no offense to Greco. I'm just saying, like, I'm saying freestyle. I'm talking about freestyle, right? I'm assuming we're talking about freestyle.
Won an Olympic gold.
Yeah, how many?
Yeah.
There's
So-
only 3, right? Or am I?
so-
you probably would know if there's another one I'm missing.
I'm going to tell you my thoughts on that. And remember, winning an Olympic gold is not the actual act of winning. To me, my personal opinion, the act of winning the gold is different from being able to win the gold, to being
Yeah.
good enough. You understand? There's been lots of guys that have been good enough,
Yeah.
in my opinion, but haven't, right? And you just got to look at, and I think Jordan Burroughs.
I'm an idiot. How did I forget that?
Yeah,
That
you got to
name,
look.
obviously.
Yeah, you
That's
got to
fine.
look at Burroughs' interview with Joe Rogan to really understand
Yeah.
what I'm saying. At a certain point, Americans were very good, at the Worlds and Olympics. Like I'd say probably up until the late '90s, right? And then all of a sudden, the Russians could keep up with their physical, either their athletic abilities or their gas tank.
I feel like the
Understand?
Russian team is almost cheating though, because they're like taken from all these different countries. You know what I mean?
No. It's not. That's not true. So understand, with Russia, and the sports changed so much too. So
That's
with
not fair.
Russia,
America has immigrants from all over.
Yeah.
the
No,
US.
They're
America.
not playing, they're mostly American wrestlers who end up representing us. And like this year, it's all guys who are from here. So for instance,
What do you mean?
like for instance, who's the greatest Russian wrestler ever in your opinion?
My opinion, Satiev.
Okay, in Russia, is he really considered Russian, or do
Yeah.
they not? Because I've heard that a lot of times they don't consider Chechens and Dagestanis.
Because Russia is so big. Remember, Russia used to be USSR.
So that's my point, right? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like there's a, like, you know what
But
I mean?
if you look at population,
Russia
what's
and
the
US
population of Russia?
127 million.
Yeah, but it's
Right.
their national sport. Like,
Sure. Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but you can't knock them for
no,
that.
I'm not. My
So
point
here's-
is they do have a huge pool that they're able to pull from that.
It's still not.
The United
the
States
same.
is just using the
United States still physically, bro.
Has way more
physically-
people.
No, not just, but physically, like athletically, physically, have way more gifted.
Yeah, but our best athletes. So for instance,
Yes.
if wrestling was our top sport and you were making 100 million wrestling, you don't think the United
not
States
even
would
that.
win?
It's not even- so
Olympic-
here- so-
if every
Yeah.
NFL and NBA player wanted to be a wrestler,
So here's the thing.
what would American wrestling look like?
We don't even have to go that far. We don't even. If all the kids that started folk style in the U.S.
Stayed
freestyle, then the U.S. would dominate. But here's the difference: the standard of living in the U.S. across the board is better than the standard. of
Yeah,
living
that's my- yeah.
And they have access to more medical, like a lot. All of when you put it all together, the U.S. has an advantage.
Of course.
But
They get killed. They're getting killed by Russia.
now,
No, but they just
anymore.
won a world
Not
title
anymore. They're
one
not
year
getting
ago.
killed anymore.
How many years ago they just won a world title?
I think it was it 2018?
18 or 19, they just won
2018
one.
or 19, yeah. So they're not
We're gonna
getting
do well
killed.
this year. Remember, I
They're not
said
going
that.
to they're not getting killed anymore. But the U.S. has, as of I'd say it started maybe like 2015, 2016. They had a crop of I noticed it when they had a crop of cadets go over and just smash everybody. Spencer Lee's
Yeah, bro, I'm telling
just
you.
smashed everybody at the World
He's gonna
Championship.
be an animal when he joins. It's gonna be a rap, bro.
He's going to be one of
Gable
those guys.
Stevenson's about to get
that's
down.
that's my point. There's a
Imagine
lot of guys
Cox
who are
would've gotten to
capable.
wrestle.
There's a lot of guys who are capable that don't go on to win.
Yeah.
So he's a perfect example. Gable Stevenson's another perfect example. So Gable, I mean, he has it in his plans to do MMA, but most of those guys typically don't.
Yeah.
Right? His
Well, there's
trajectory.
more money now, to be fair to like Cael Sanderson.
That's
Why
true,
would you?
too.
Now that guys are making $50 million, I think we would have pulled more of those guys back in the day. I think.
Not the top guys.
Well, so
I don't
Jordan
think
Burroughs said he almost came, and his wife told him not to, and how Flow is kind of helping things.
Yeah.
But
But
like I said, I look at DC and a guy like Henry Cejudo, and I say, how many wrestlers can say, unless you're the Cael Sanders who goes to a university and ends up, there's not many guys who can say that. Then
No.
they end up with that type of job. Cejudo and these guys did well for themselves. DC did
Oh,
very well for
100%.
himself.
And
I
wrestlers
think,
are still the
I think
most
Gable
successful.
Stevenson is going to take it to another level.
Yeah.
I think a lot of, especially heavyweights, are going to follow his path, and it's the Brock Lesnar path. They went to the same university. I think we're going to see a huge switch. Bo Nickel signed with a.
But that's what I'm saying. The best guys are coming. The best guys
It's
are
about
now
to get
coming.
weird. Yeah, I
because
fully believe
so
that.
now,
But can you touch on why the Russians are usually better? Than
I think it's drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I was even going to go there.
Yeah, I think performance. They have some performance enhancements, bro, that are just incredible. Like they
Do
didn't
you
have
agree with
before.
my point that like
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
I was trying to be political about it.
No, I'm not. I don't need.
Well, not political, but I don't want to take
be
like
honest.
like one of my favorite wrestlers to watch is Sada Live, right? Now I don't think he's on. I don't know if he's on something. I think he's lying about his age. I think he's. That's my one. I'm not being funny about this.
Yeah.
But I don't want to put that on him when he's never been caught. It's very likely he is. I get it, based on how he looks.
What was that movie? You seen it, Icarus?
Trust me, I'm fully on board.
You're on the tip,
but I'd
right?
like to. I want to give a guy or Sidikov. I want to give guys like them their credit.
Yeah.
Now, if they're on it, then it is what it is. But I'd like to give them
But
their credit.
do you think
right?
Russians technically have some advantages too?
Oh, that's the only advantage they really have is their technical, their school of wrestling. So in Russia, if you join a wrestling club, there's a very good chance that your coach is a world champion.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking your senior coach. I'm talking your kids coach. Understand? So that's a huge advantage. And then the fact that they're so technically sound, like that's their advantage. And they have a very good developmental model, right? And if we as Canadians were to follow their model instead of following the US model, we'd be a lot more successful because their model keeps you healthier for longer as an athlete. As
Is
a
there
wrestler.
any sport in Russia though that's more popular than wrestling?
Oh heck yeah! Like
Hockey, soccer probably is the most.
Yeah.
It's popular most, but it's definitely higher up on the hierarchy than here in the States or Canada.
yeah.
They care more about combat sports for sure.
I could see that.
Because to this point,
Because they're military minded, right?
I feel like
for the
Canada has
most
no choice but to follow the States because same thing here. We have how many guys in the NBA? We basketball and hockey will always be ahead of wrestling in Canada.
But
There's no way around that.
Russia honors the master of sport. You know, they have that title.
But
and
I'm not saying that we need to make it more popular here. I'm talking about having a
wish it
developmental
was.
model.
I wish it was.
Yeah. Oh, heck yeah.
But that's kind of
I know. I wish I had wrestling in high school. I had to literally seek it out here.
But
when I
the
got
only
to
developmental
university.
model is
if
to
you
make it
did,
popular.
how long would your career be? Like, let's be honest.
I don't know. I probably would have been wrestling the wrong way because you see a lot
what
of
I'm saying.
the high school wrestlers
Yeah.
that you have here. Like I'm not.
Yeah,
You know, I don't want to
most
say anything,
success-
but they're not of the highest level. They're gonna teach you a lot of like bad habits that and then bad training habits even. So,
Yeah.
but
Well, that's so to wrap that up and get back to the point, the advantage that Russia has is their technical superiority. Now, athletically, that's where they would lose to the Americans and the Cubans. But for some reason, after 2012, that advantage disappeared from what I saw.
So how do you see these? So I'm still gonna count the Russian wrestlers as a Russian team. I know Russia technically can't win it this year. I get that. So if the U.S. wins it, I want it to be based off them actually beating all the guys who are going independent, right? Because that's basically what a lot of these Russian guys are doing. How do you see this playing out this year based
but
off
how
of
do you
who's there?
compete independent in the Olympics?
Because you got Sadalayev, obviously, who I think is going to beat. I think he's going to beat Snyder. I think
yeah, he's
Jaden
gonna
had a way
smash
better shot.
I
It
agree.
breaks my heart that we didn't get him in there.
Well, it's not done yet with him, first of all.
I hope
Yeah,
you're
it's
right.
not done yet. Yeah. Remember
so-
they overturned Yanni and Zayn.
So you know what? Let's say positive and say let's say somehow Jaden gets in there.
So I call it. So at 57, Russia will win that.
Not the Indian guy.
He's 65.
Oh, he's 65.
65, yeah. So
Okay.
57. At 65, I think Jo as an outside shot at top 3.
Yeah.
But I think India will win that.
Yeah.
And then at
Here
74,
we go.
yeah.
Let's go. I want to hear it right now. We got it on camera. Before we wrap
My
this
money,
up, I wanna
my
hear this.
money is on Chamizo.
Really?
Yeah.
I kind of hope he wins. I just don't
Yeah.
know. The other two seem way more obsessed.
Well,
But he's a model.
So
I
I'll put it
hope
to you
he's
this way.
focused, but
I'll put it to you this way. I
the guy's
bet
swagging, like,
I bet two
so
ways.
talented.
I bet two ways. I bet with my heart or my head. My head says Sidekov, and
Okay.
I think Sidekov is going to be the best wrestler ever if he continues on this trajectory.
So I'm gonna go out there and I think Dake's gonna win it. After what I
Yeah,
saw,
I thought I had a feeling you'd
he
say
looked.
Dake.
He looked scary.
He
That was
does look
unreal.
scary,
I
yeah.
don't know how they deal with him.
My thing is outside of his athleticism, I don't see he doesn't have like a solid top level scoring move.
He doesn't.
I don't see like he'll out wrestle you, and he'll pick you up and smash you. But to be and I'm gonna go on record and saying this, to be an Olympic champ, you have to have something that nobody can stop.
I think he can get
Like a
literally-
Jordan
I think
Burroughs
he can win
double?
the whole tournament with defense and push up points. I don't think either one of those two. The way he looked against Burroughs, I've never seen that before in my life. He's the only person to ever shut out Burroughs. Like we're talking about an Olympic champ, how many time world champ? But
he
says a lot.
spent 5 years planning for that.
Yeah.
And
How many
that's my
times did he
point.
lose to Burroughs?
Look at how much different Burroughs and Camiso's matches have gone, and Sidikov. Those were matches that Burroughs could have won. This was
But
a
if you
shutout.
look at Dake's match with Chamizo the other day,
Yeah, when he beat him, yeah.
he beat him. But 2 of those. I'd say 2 to 3 of those points. So one step out, Chamizo could have avoided, and that gut wrench, Chamizo easily could have avoided.
Yeah,
that.
and that's why I think Kamiz will lose because I don't think he's obsessed with this as Conor is.
But well, that's the thing.
That's
Cubans.
I want him to win.
Cubans at World Championships, and when it doesn't matter, they don't care. But when it comes to Olympics, they show up.
I hope so.
They show up every time. They show up. That's the the holy grail for them.
So next weight class, who you got?
86. I'm gonna go with it. Yazdani.
Over Taylor.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take Taylor in that.
Yeah, and I don't think Russia's gonna do well at that one either.
And then heavyweight, we both.
97.
Not heavyweight, 97.
97, I picked the Russian.
Yep, Sadalayev.
I picked
And
Sadalayev.
I'm taking Gable.
Yeah.
And the heavyweight.
Yeah.
So
I think
it's
Gable
fair to say
wins,
the
yeah.
United States could win the
They could
Olympics
win,
this year
yeah.
outright.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really believe this will be. I believe Gable will win. I believe it'll come down to Dake and Taylor. If those 3 win, it's a wrap because Russia doesn't even have that many guys in the finals. Based off yours prediction, anything can happen.
Yeah. Anything can happen.
Anything can happen.
But I'll look at let's go top 3 then. So if you go
Iran, India.
57, top 3, you're probably gonna have a Japanese guy in there. You'll have a Russian, and then you might have Gilman, right? At 65, you have the Indian. The Russian's gonna be good. The Russian is actually very good. Yeah.
I think
so he
Jail
can
gets
win
top
that.
3. I think Jail gets top 3.
Yeah, Jail could get.
I think he's talented enough to win it. I think he's the most talented of the 3.
If he shows up, nobody stops him.
That's what I'm saying, man.
Yeah,
And if we get
if he
Jaden in
shows up.
there, I'm not saying
Yeah.
he can beat Sadalayev. I wouldn't put money on it. But if anything, but he can pull it off, it's a once in a lifetime out there. I think that's what makes Gable Stevenson special.
Yeah, the thing about Cox that really excites me is that I don't see how Sadalayev can score on him.
That's why I hope he gets in.
I can see him beating him, but I just don't know how. I can't see him scoring because he's not going to score from a shot.
Yeah.
Nobody scores on Jaden's legs on a shot like that.
That's
seen.
why I hope he's the one who gets in.
Yeah.
I'm hoping. Well, Neal, thank you so much for coming. This is one of the episodes I was most excited about doing. Obviously, you guys know we're obsessed with wrestling, MMA. As usual, thanks to Top Mutt Studios. All our sponsors we shout out. Neal, again, great having you. And,
Beat the streets.
Beat the streets,
yes,
everybody.
sir.
And this is Thicc Boy Fight Club.